Hello, I'm Thomas Hare, Chief Content Officer of the Performance Driven Marketing Institute, a not-for-profit trade association that serves companies in the performance and direct-to-consumer marketing world. Welcome to the latest episode of Take 20, created by the PDMI Brand Response Council. These 20-minute live conversations featuring the leaders in the performance marketing world speaking about the hottest topics in the industry are scheduled twice monthly. Before we get to today's conversation, a quick housekeeping note. We'll be addressing any questions from the audience at the end of today's session, but you don't have to wait to ask them. Utilize the questions tab on your control panel to type and send your question in. We'll be collecting them and we'll try to get to as many as possible in the final moments of this episode. Today's episode, well, as performance marketing has evolved and consumers and marketers alike marvel at creative and media targeting excellence in successful campaigns, services on the back end of a direct-to-consumer campaign can often be overlooked for their importance in any success. However, today, in the second of a recurring series during the first half of 2024, Take 20 host and PDMI Brand Response Council Chair Chris Foster of Modern Postcard welcomes leaders from fulfillment and logistics companies to discuss the latest and greatest information on the hows, whens, and whys of performance marketers' expectations of their third-party logistics partners. With us are Fulfillment Express's Dieter Ammann, Medallion Enterprises' Joel Crannell, and QuickBox Fulfillment's Joe Wall. Welcome, everyone. Chris, take it away.
Great, thank you so much. And gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We're so glad to have you at Take 20. I think it's actually new Take 20s for everybody. And the only thing that I noticed too is that if you say, which of these folks are not like the other, I'm the only one wearing stripes. Everybody's wearing solid colors. That's great because the solidity of fulfillment is projected in the attire today. So this is wonderful. Really excited about today. This is episode 85. For Take 20 of our Unsung Heroes. Like Tom said, as the second chapter of this story, fulfillment is this magical moment, right? Where all the work that all the marketers, the brand strategists, all the data providers, the copywriters, the designers, the online stuff, all the design, the technology, all that stuff and on the product creators, it all finally comes together for the customer. Fulfillment actually takes those products and gets that stuff into their hands. Right? The art and science of fulfillment, however, has never been more complex. From D2C into retail storefronts, ongoing subscriptions, returns. Oh, there's also that business called Amazon. Have you heard about that? That's part of the story too. So now it's become easier than ever in the history of the world, truly. In the whole history of the world, it's never been easier to get online and to sell products and to start a business, right? So now folks can do it out of their apartment, out of their garage, out of their homes, get up and sell products to people, but fulfillment out of all of that still remains and will be the key piece of this complicated customer journey. So we're going to go through it all. So excited to have these folks. And Joe, I'm going to start with you because when it comes to the fundamentals of fulfillment and someone's wondering about it, what are maybe the top 3 questions that any client should ask a potential fulfillment partner?
Yeah, no, thank you for the introduction, and it's great to be here with everybody. Really, when it comes to the fundamentals of fulfillment, I think about time and accuracy. How 3PLs get to having the best time and accuracy to me is, really establishing SLAs that have great quality standards. So if we're thinking about questions to ask a 3PL, I would dig into, how do you measure your time and accuracy? What are some of your SLAs and what's your inventory accuracy rate? How's your on-time ship performance? Inventory management methodologies comes to mind. How do you manage lot control? I think it's important to have, a timely order, but also a correct order to really help that customer get that full end-to-end experience that they enjoy in addition to the goods that they're receiving. Another foundation for me would be, the visibility and the reporting. And so that also kind of plays into the technology that the 3PL can offer. What are the reporting tools and what are the capabilities that you have to offer me as a client or as a brand? It's important to be able to watch on a day-to-day what's going on the floor, what's happening in the operations, how are orders being packed, picked, everything like that. Also making sure that they plug into the technology that you're using, like Shopify, things like that. And then finally, I think that the last question would be the communication and the team. Who's my point of contact? Who am I talking to on a daily basis? And maybe a question here would be, can I see your warehouse and can I meet your team members?
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. I like that a lot because the idea of the trust factor, I think, is huge, right? Because I would imagine that a client who is beginning this process is making this true leap of faith if they've never done it before. And so I'm sure they also don't want to shop around for a variety of partners because of the time, effort, energy that's invested in that. So I would imagine that those questions getting answered up front are so critical, and also trying to understand how fulfillment centers might adapt and change based on the market conditions. And I guess, Joel, I'll ask you that. Medallion's grown from a garage into a bi-coastal operation. So clearly the team has had to make some changes, not just to stay relevant in the marketplace, but also changes in their mindset in terms of how they think of themselves. Can you walk us through what that process was like?
Yeah, no, it's good, and I want to probably reflect a lot on what Joe said there too. But it really comes down to, I believe, as we've grown to a multi-facility location on both coasts, it's comes down to the people and systems and processes you keep in place. A manager can't be in 2 locations at one time. So my guy here who ran everything in chat for us for so many years, can't be sitting there looking over in Boston. But you want consistency out of both places. So from the client, they don't want to hear, oh, this guy, we do it this way, we do it that way. So I go back to the consistency, ensure you're just doing things the same way. The systems aspect, pulling in Shopify over the last few years versus the old web orders and telemarketing orders, really it enhances things so much more on the front end that you can look for that single process. I use the McDonald's theory, right? You go to McDonald's, know where you go, you want the same thing out of each place. We're expecting the same out of both the locations. The multiple locations, sounds easy. Everybody, hey, just get a warehouse, a forklift, some people, and start shipping stuff. That'll come back and bite you for sure. But no.
I would imagine it's a lot more complex than that, but
exactly. But mentally, people, that's what a lot of people think. Hey, you just ship it. It's easy. But no, so that's that one. Also, there's so much more benefits nowadays, I think, for the multiple locations. What we're seeing, and possibly it's because we are on the East Coast, we're seeing more and more product coming out of the UK. European. So where, the Asian market, obviously the ports of LA and stuff, and Dieter will attest to that. Yeah, that's where you want to be. But now that we're bringing product in out of Europe, we're seeing that it just makes more sense. We still look at the population curve of the U.S., heavily weighted to the East Coast. So again, probably back to the mindset is just keeping a cohesive balance between everybody. Training is a major. We try to bring people back and forth to different locations so they can see each other how they're doing it, and that really helps.
Yeah, no, I love that idea too. On the East Coast, pulling things from Europe. It's about a month or so ago, we had our European folks talking about the performance marketing space there, and they were talking about working with U.S. partners to make sure that the European brands can bring that in, and so it creates a situation, I would think, where there's so many different kinds of businesses that you're working with, from small to large, and I guess Dieter, I'll ask you about that kind of change of business. So you work with these boutique retailers like Target and Sephora and Ulta and Nordstrom. Has anyone heard of those folks? but you work with those folks. I would imagine that the relationships with those larger brands and those larger retails have to be different and managed differently than a single product or a smaller new startup.
Well, as we develop Fulfillment Express, and we've been doing this for well over 30 years, the market has changed so dramatically from the old days with telemarketing and call centers and getting files from them in a CSV format and processing them and credit card processing. All that has sort of changed over the years. It wasn't overnight, it was a gradual change. And of course, as part of that, a brick and mortar started coming into play, and the home shopping network and QVC and so forth. And the dynamics change when you get involved in those. It's not like dealing with orders coming from Shopify. They come into your system, they get processed, they go to the warehouse, they get picked, packed, and shipped, and then it's done. And you can handle millions of those a year, or thousands a day, right? And we do all that as well. But when you're dealing with the likes of the brick and mortar stores, the Macy's and all those, they have different requirements, and a lot of it has to do with the way the orders come in, the way the orders are processed using EDI, electronic data interchange, which, by the way, was designed as a standard, but in practice it just doesn't work because everybody has decided to sort of move a little bit aside and do their own integration in terms of purchase orders and invoices and ASN for payments. And so you end up working with Macy's, and you have to learn to use MacyNet, or work with places that use True Commerce or SPS Commerce or any of those. And now for us, it's additional functions to perform, but for the seller, for our clients, it's a lot more cost involved, because it's not just, hey, they get an order and they give it to us. Now we don't deal directly with the department stores or the brick and mortar store or Target, Costco. We deal with a third party that's in the middle of it, and to kind of it's a lot more involved. I mean, for instance, if you deal with Urban Outfitters, each item has to be skewed with a barcode, and you got to buy those from Fine Line in Florida. If you're dealing with Dillard's, every item has to have a RFID tag. So, I mean, I look at that as a revenue stream, but it's also more difficult and getting set up. And then, and for the clients, it's just additional money. I mean, and it's a moving target. I mean, a perfect example right now, and it's a little, digressing a little bit. We do a lot of work with Amazon, the big elephant in the room. And Friday, they changed their strategy, whereas before you had delivery fees, and now you also have placement fees. And all of a sudden, you have to place the order and you have a fee, because in the past, what they've done, they've paid for the transport from the intake distribution center to all the other distribution centers around the country. So you might send a shipment to one of the intake distribution centers, and then they, next day or whatever it is, they got 20, 30, 40, 50 shipments going out to the other distribution centers. Now they call it a placement fee, and you have to pay for that. So again, we have to adapt, and we have to do things, and that's where fulfillment is, we shine at that, because we're so integrated with everybody. We have our own warehouse management system. We've been around forever. We're using AI, and we're doing all the things that everybody else is doing, but we tend to be on the forefront of it. And maybe because I'm a computer guy from way back, and I still just I can't help myself. I just get the latest device, I buy it. Like Tesla has a car, I gotta buy it. I mean, that's just the way I do it. But it helps us in having the outlook of today.
Sure.
Not looking back, but looking forward, and that's really what we do at Fulfillment Express. And I agree with what Joe said, and what Joe said. And by the way, Joe, we got to go back out and play golf. It's been a few years. I think it was in Las Vegas. But the whole process of order fulfillment. People think it's, get the orders, stick the product in the box, and hand it to a carrier. Well, it doesn't work that way. And
there's a lot more to it.
A lot more to it, and as you get into, and brick and mortar is failing. Macy's just announced they're closing 150 stores, and I'm saying, yeah, probably because you make it so difficult for your vendors to deal with you. Or the contract department, you do something wrong, it's $500.
Well,
it's this magic of fulfillment. That there's no magic. It's hard work.
It's hard work. It's art and science, without a doubt. To the customer, it seems like magic, though. And I think that the experiences we all have as consumers with Amazon has trained us to expect magical experiences where I can order something and hours later it's at my doorstep or tomorrow. And so that level of expectation beyond Amazon is that consumers create that and put that expectation on any brand that's doing type of orders, especially when it comes to not only those single orders that are delivered, but also subscription orders, right? If I subscribe to something, I'm expecting that delivery to happen like clockwork. So Joe, I guess I would ask you on the subscription services side, recent studies show that 60% of Gen Zs participate in some kind of subscription, right? Netflix or some type of product subscription as well. That's a lot. And my hunch is that not only will continue to increase, but will be also reflected at the Generation Alpha coming right underneath them. Where do you see subscription services going, and what's the role in fulfillment to making those happen?
No, I love this question, because if you think about it on a macro level, it's about how our society kind of interacts, right? You see ride-sharing programs blow up, like Uber and Lyft is used all over the place now. Same with mobile banking apps or like Venmo and Cash App, like sending money back and forth. I see that portion of subscription services kind of trailing along with that, right? Where you're able to have a predictable good sent to you on a timely cadence, where you're like, hey, I didn't forget to get the dog food this week. Things like that. It seems like as technology continues to develop and scale, so will some of the consumers' demands. Kind of going to what Dieter's saying, like I think there was a news release on Target shifting towards 2-day shipping capabilities, right? And so you see some of these bigger retailers trying to pivot along with kind of what we're seeing in society and how they're looking to become as consumers. So I think it really, my last point on this maybe would be that I see it as a big opportunity for brands to really create attractive subscription offerings, because that can lead to recurring revenue or LTV, some lifetime value that you can get and become really sticky with your customers. Something that they're used to having that come and then and have it in their fridge all the time, or whatever it might be. So I definitely see it growing in the future.
Yeah, and what I love about the fulfillment piece of that is that creates a cadence and a trust where the vendor then not only, it's a double stickiness, right? The client, the consumer's sticky to the brand, but the brand is sticky with fulfillment to those partners who can deliver and make that subscription for them nothing to think about, right? That's where they want to go. So it's a wonderful opportunity for your businesses. And what's interesting too is that when a new client comes along and they have a new product, that's the goal, right? Of course, anybody creating a new product is like, let's get subscriptions, right? So however, for a new business or clients that are testing new products, right, there's so many programs and commitments. I'm just thinking it can be kind of overwhelming and daunting. So I guess, Joel, I would ask you, what advice do you have specifically for new startups or market tests or those short-lived infomercials?
Yeah, that's a good one. When I saw the question, I really put a lot of thought into that one. And I'm going to break it into two groups, because there is the new startup, and probably from most fulfillment centers, including the 3 here, when they hear that word, they shudder. It's like, oh no. But let's face it, these new startups, they're generally that new entrepreneur, right? Who's finally got this dream and took it to the next level, processing it, and so there's a product desire, and they just want to go and take it and live that American dream that they used to watch the old infomercials. Not all, but many of the startups, the challenge I have, I say should challenge, but is they fall in love with their product too much, and they say too focused on it. So a recommendation to them is just to really understand what your marketplace is. There's a lot of programs, the Shopify's of the world and all that work well, but they need to really understand what their true costs are. And that is definitely something, the Amazon model is free shipping. We've been hit with, well, there's no such thing as free shipping. I mean, it might call it free shipping, but it's not going to do that. And so the new entrepreneur just needs to really understand, and there's where we need to handhold them in the beginning to get, just a reality check, maybe is what I'm trying to say on that one. That compared to, I think you mentioned it as a market test or the short-lived infomercial. These are more generally going to be your experienced marketers who are just taking an idea, throwing it out there. Is this going to be viable or not? So probably a more advanced experience, I would say, on that level. So a lot of these market tests are strictly going to be, hey, is there viability? It's going to roll over to Amazon. I'm not saying that they can't run it themselves anymore, but let's face it, you can't not play with the big A. Any product does that. And I think what you're also seeing on these market tests, and you're seeing now much more Chinese manufacturers just using social media and going direct. Where, I mean, look at some of these things that hit your Facebook page, and I like going on just ordering some of them and just to see, and yeah, it's coming from China. So the testing, it's become a lot easier. I think we brought that with all the different posts and all that. But for the new marketer, it again, just understanding the true cost. Nothing's really free. Realizing that you don't ship stuff for $2 anymore. That was 1980. But it's that's kind of that marketplace there.
That's excellent. And I think that also too, you have, you talked about, Shopify, you talked about Amazon, and I guess, Dieter, I would ask you about that. And Joe, you had made the comment earlier about third-party platforms, and kind of connecting all of those things. So Dieter, in this world, in this day and age, when everything seems to be connected or integrated, how important is integrating into shopping and e-commerce platforms? And is that now just table stakes that you have to have?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we talked a little bit earlier offline about the old days and the call centers and so forth. And of course, the market has dramatically changed. Now today, is the majority of orders are coming, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok Shop, using influencers, and so as a fulfillment house, the client doesn't really care how you get the orders. They just know, hey, I'm launching this product, and then you have to kind of figure out, well, where is the order coming from? Oh yeah, it's going to Shopify, it's going to a different shopping cart, or it's on Amazon, or whatever it may be. So we have to adapt in order to have integration. Now, the integration isn't as simple as it sounds. I mean, there's a lot of computer programming involved and linking up and communications. And then sometimes, for instance, we have some integration that we do ourselves and some where we outsource. So we use something like intensive order management, or it used to be called Cardwover, where you do some of that integration. Otherwise, it costs thousands of dollars, and the client doesn't want to pay for that. But the world has changed so dramatically in this instant gratification of ordering something on Amazon and being there. I did it myself the other day. I ran out of cat food at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was delivered at 3. I mean, that makes me shudder as a fulfillment house, because I can't offer that service. I don't have my own fleet of vehicles on the road. I mean, I have to still use UPS, FedEx, and all those. And that's the other integration. Is the integration to be able to integrate into all the carriers, and the national carriers, the regional carriers, international carriers, so that we can get the best fees for our clients. And by the way, back to one of the original questions about the questions that new clients ask, and that is one of them. Shipping fees. I want your best shipping fees. I know you ship a lot and you get a lot of discounts. I want your discounts, right? And you have to deal with that. And when you're selling that service, and how do you work that all in? But the bottom line is that it's such a vast world in terms of where orders could come from. Yeah, I mean, right now, most of our clients are, if they have their own website, are using Shopify and having that input from, all the different platforms. And then pretty much everybody else is also on Amazon, Seller Central, Merchant Fulfilled, or FBA. FBA, that's a whole nother can of worms. You might have to SKU each item, or at least the cartons and the pallets. And matter of fact, what we've been doing with Amazon is, for FBA, we have our own Amazon freight account, and we consolidate shipments. So I got a carrier, Amazon, dropping a container off here 2-3 times a week. We load different clients' product on there, and then goes to one distribution center. It's redirecting, and it saves money. So when a client before that is, they make them ship to Arizona or Nevada from here, and I take those shipments, combine them, and ship them to LA for, a third of the cost. So
further distribution. So what I love about that example, Dieter, is it's not just the technologies that you guys are solving for each time. It's the distribution, it's the carrier, it's the supply chain as well. Let me turn that off. I'm getting a call in. That is, I think what I love about this entire conversation is that, as consumer habits change, a lot of the topics for Take 20, to be honest with you, have been about digital engagements or calls to action or how to actually market to a consumer as we change, but it actually also moves into the consumer habits affecting on the fulfillment, like the actual supply chain logistical getting product out to the actual hands of that customer and their new expectations. This is fantastic. We could go on for a long time, but we're already at 30 minutes, even though it's a Take 20. That's awesome. So Thomas, what kind of questions do we have from the audience?
We've got a few good ones. You guys can hear me?
Yes.
All right. First one, while putting product in boxes at the heart of the business, how is machine learning, AI, and other technology in general changing your business now and looking ahead?
I can take that one really quick and add some input, because what we've been trying to do is be as innovative as possible, especially with visibility and dashboards into our reporting tools. I talked about it earlier, but really, I think being in this industry, you have to be able to understand shipping speed, order speed, accuracy, things like that. We've made sure to have the best tech that we can to be on the cutting edge of that. Even if it's not there yet, it's on our roadmap. So we're always trying to grow along with the technology that's out there.
Let me jump in there real quick. We kind of use that artificial intelligence, computer programming assistance in the warehouse when we designed our pick-to-light picking carts, where the sort of the system maps out the floor path to the warehouse of picking, and then they scan the item and scan the tote, and it lights up, and so it really enhances the picking capability, and so there's so many different ways to where we're starting to use and are using artificial intelligence and computer assistance. I want to call it computer assistance because it's not really artificial. It's somebody wrote it and now we can use it, type of thing, and the computers learn themselves. So, but it's become a big part of who we are.
Great. Next one. This is again for anybody. What's the one thing in dealing with Amazon that affects your business more than any other?
I'll take a quick stab because it's probably going to affect each one of us a little bit different.
Well,
okay. But the Amazon, the effect in Amazon is really it's a consumer's perception. I think it's really comes down to it. We all, as Dieter just mentioned, I mentioned. I fought Amazon for years as a fulfillment company going, I'm not going to use them. Now I use them every day. You can't help it. They build a better mousetrap, if that's the way you want to call it. So the challenge of dealing with them is that you're under their rules. I mean, they set the rules, they set the policies, and we live up to them. If you don't, there's fines, there's all that kind of thing. So it can be a challenge, but it's also something we all have to deal with.
Joel,
I think one of the things is that, Amazon is big on this, next day shipping, 2-day shipping, the Prime thing, and free shipping. But one of the things that I try to do is educate our clients that you don't have to offer free shipping because, it's built into the price. And so if you have reasonable time on shipping, and, I use, last mile delivery to the post office, you can get a fairly good rate, and you can't compete with Amazon. But you can augment for what they do and sell your product directly and make the most money that you can, what you can't do with Amazon.
Joel, it's interesting you've talked about Amazon creating the rules. It's in a similar way that folks in the search and SEO and PPC marketing world deal with, where Google has created the laws of the universe, right? They created gravity, they created all the things that you have to deal with. Amazon now is kind of creating the laws of the universe when it comes to this type of fulfillment. So it's a question of how you work with them to help serve the clients, like you were mentioning, Dieter, and how to give your clients, I think, the best understanding of the pros and cons of any approach.
All right. This is one that's a part comment, part question. The box can be a media moment. Has anyone attempted to generate a new revenue stream from cross-marketing inside the box via package inserts, etc.? For instance, an undigital service.
Well, that goes back for many years. So I've always had clients who want to do that, but most people are reluctant to have other people put their stuff inside, or even, you know, and we've stuck labels from some other project or product on the outside. But people don't want to diversify, and when they get that product, they want their customers to spend their money on them and not on the other guy who's, you know, flyers inside the box.
Yeah, you know, that's something, as Dieter mentioned, it's been brought up for years, and there's been different models of it, I would say. You know, the challenge on a fulfillment center is Joe was even talking about, you know, speed, accuracy, and with speed, it translates into labor, which is cost, and that does slow down a line. Now, there's pros and cons against it, but if I'm doing some digital printing on the line, I'm slowing that line down, and someone's got to pay for that. So it's a cost factor plus, you know, what's it really worth.
I do like the idea of QR codes on packaging and buying that packaging and having that there, because you see how much those QR codes, even Dieter's got one back there, where, you know, you scan it with your phone, with your camera, and you're instantly taken to the information you need. But yeah, it's something that I'm kind of seeing evolve.
Great, guys. I'm going to wedge one more in here for the before we cut it off. In your opinion, what is the one thing that 3PLs do that ensures a product lands in the hands of a customer that goes unforeseen, but makes you guys unsung heroes in any marketing campaign?
You mean get it into the consumer's hands? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, you know, we're still reliant on, you know, UPS and FedEx and all those, and they're human beings, and we're human beings, and people make mistakes. But it's not so much that you do it right; it's what happens, how you correct it when something goes wrong. And that's really that's really the measure of, everybody can do the job right, but when something goes wrong, which inevitably it will, is you make it right. And you know, I always say, don't react, act. If there's an issue or problem, let the client know before the client calls us and says, hey, what happened here? So that's just a matter of training your staff and your people, and to be proactive rather than active.
I agree 100%. I think as fast and accurate as I've been talking about, you have to be to get it done. You have to be fast and accurate with issue resolution and working together with your clients to resolve issues. I would agree 100% there.
Joel, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, you know, I think that, you know, Dieter and Joe pretty much nailed it on that one as well. You're right. It's how you react. We are humans. You are going to have issues, you know, but it's the food chain. So we have to ensure we're getting it done properly and out the door. We are handing it off to the next vendor who's delivering. So it's a very small percent that really don't ever get delivered. People, you know, they think, oh my God, I missed a package or two. But when you look at the tens of thousands that go out the door a day, it's really small.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, is that your clients seem to, you know, tend to overreact. You can ship 50,000 orders a month, and one goes wrong. Oh my God, it's the end of the world.
Well, hey, thank you guys. As I see you on my screen, Joe, Dieter, Joel, and Chris, another wonderful conversation. We look forward to getting this onto our YouTube channel. For those of you watching who think someone else might get value of this, keep an eye on our YouTube channel and our social media outlets. This should be up by Friday, and go check it out. So our next Take 20 episode is set for 2 weeks from today, Wednesday, March 20th, when a group of experts in sports and entertainment marketing join us to discuss the latest success stories using performance tactics to drive success. Please visit thepdmi.com/take-20 for the webinar information and to check out the upcoming schedule. Finally, while online registration continues for PDMI East, which is April 8th through 10th at Eden Rock, Miami Beach, a major deadline looms tomorrow. Badge holder access to our discounted hotel room block ends Thursday. Badges are just $395 for PDMI members and $595 for non-members, and they guarantee you access to rooms at the host hotel for just $329 per night, but only through tomorrow. Visit thepdmi.com/PDMI-East to get your badge and book your room today. Thanks again for checking out this episode of the PDMI's Take 20. We'll see you soon. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.